So, in Japan, Prime Minister Abe announced yesterday that every Japanese citizen would receive something equivalent to 100,000 yen, which I think is about 1,000 US dollars, I think. And although it was a welcome step because many people are losing their incomes and you know uh, their lives are disrupted because of this coronavirus outbreak. Uh, some people cannot pay their rents and some people cannot pay for their food. So this aid from government was perhaps more than welcome. However, some people say that it has been too slow in coming because some people need the money now, not later. And in the typical sluggish way that Japanese people government reacts, they have decided to do that only yesterday, right? And they say that it was an extraordinary step to take. But if you go to Germany or in the United States, the government has been really quick in offering aid to those who are being affected. And why is the difference? So, one interesting analysis is that the Japanese government has actually been very respective of the privacy of its citizens, right? So that, for example, in the United States, uh, you have your bank account, and the government knows that bank account, so that once they review the tax returns, and if the government have judged that someone qualifies for this special aid, then the government can just you know put money into the bank account. The government can do that. In Germany, I don't know what the situation is, but the fact is that um, people can just apply online and receive the checks a few days later. So, means that the government has more or less a good idea of what each citizen is up to and what the each citizen's financial situation is. So they can do that. But in Japan, probably because of the traumatic experiences during the Second World War, when the government exerted too much control over its citizens, the government has been actually very reluctant to get hold of uh, each citizen's private information. So it's quite interesting because the liberal or leftist critics in Japan have always been criticizing the government for putting their nose too much into private affairs, and they have been always you know uh, alarm calls for a totalitarian state again in the style of the Second World War Japanese government. But the reality looks like that the Japanese government has been very weak in that aspect, in terms of having access to the information of individual citizens and having control over it. The Japanese government has not been doing that, apparently. Probably that's why the Japanese government has been very slow, sluggish in offering aid to those affected in this crisis. So, you know, it's I think it's very interesting. It's a very interesting self-reflective and self-reviewing process for citizens in Japan because this crisis is shedding light on the kind of relationship that we are having with the government. I'm not saying that we should have you know government where it has information about its citizens, because that to allow the government to do that, we need to trust the government. And I'm not sure if the Japanese people trust the government to that degree that the government allowed to, um, you know, get hold of individual information and control it. So I think it boils down to the mutual trust between Japanese people and Japanese government, and it's being tested. So in this crisis, I think the mutual trust between the government and the people is being tested. Probably that's a good thing.